Hey there, Dangaster here. Today's video we're going to have a look at the Seez trim tilt unit on this Evinrude outboard. Subscribers probably will have seen the previous video where we started this up for the first time, and the problem it has with the trim tilt is the tilt part works, the tilt ram works, but the trim rams are both seized, or at least one of them seized, so it won't trim down at all. So you can get it down to its highest trim but no further down, which means the boat's pretty much undrivable. So I'm going to start by taking the unit just off the outboard so I can sort of push the boat out of the way and we can work on it on the bench. So I'll show you how we do that. These trim tilt units are attached top and bottom. The top end goes to the steering bracket of the outboard, and there's a pin that comes through here, and there's a circlip, which hopefully you can see here, on each end of that locking pin. Down the bottom, in the bracket here, we've got some bolts that go through. It looks like a bolt head here, and same on the other side. This is all covered in paint and anti-foul, so I can't get a socket on at the moment. So my first job is just to get a little soda blaster out and just see how much of this anti-foul and paint I can clean up so we can get a socket onto here. I'll actually hit this up with a bit of soda blasting too, just to see if we can clean a bit of this corrosion and barnacles and stuff away from the circlip here to take that out. The thing I like about soda blasting is although it's not as abrasive or as strong as some other mediums, the soda itself is obviously water soluble, so you can kind of just hose it away really. The only real issue with this is the paint and anti-foul or whatever that comes off that you're blasting off. Bit cleaner now. I think we'll be able to get some pliers into this circlip. Down at the bottom end, now that it's been blasted, I can see that what looked for the world to actually be a hex head is actually just another round pin with a circlip on as well. So I'm now going to spray both of these with a bit of WD-40 or something, let them soak a little bit, and then see if I can get the pins out. I'm going to try and take the circlip out on either side, and whichever side comes out most easily, that's the side I'll drive it through from. We look to be in luck on this side. If I lift this half of the circlip, it moves, and so does the bottom half. So I think that one's going to come off nicely. At the top, this side of the clip's pretty stuck, but I've got this side flicked up, so it shouldn't be too hard just to work around and get it off. So it looks like we're going to be punching them from the starboard side through to the port side. Using a pick and these circuit pliers, both these clips came out pretty easily in there, which is nice. These circuit pliers are reversible, so you can have it so that when squeezing it separates the two pins, or squeezing it brings them together. So in this case I had to separate the pins to get them off the rod going through. I've now soaked them a little bit in WD-40, so I've got both sides soaking. Not sure how much it's going to help. We're probably going to need a bit of heat, but we'll see. I've also got the outboard sitting on the trailer stand here, so the weight's not on the hydraulics. And then also around down here on the port side, I've got the bypass screw open so that the hydraulics are free. I didn't mention it earlier, but opening the bypass screw didn't let these trim rams come down no matter how much weight you put on them. So they're definitely seized. It's starting to move, so at least now I know I'm only 45 minutes of RSI away from getting it out. Well, they're both out, and I only hit my hand once. Next thing I do, just to make it a bit easier to pull out, is take that plastic reservoir off the side here. Looks like a couple of 10mm nuts, or 11 maybe if it's whatever, 3/8, something like that. So I'll grab a spanner, we'll get that off. I'll put a tray under it because oil's bound to go everywhere. And then we'll try and wriggle the unit out. Some outboards you need to take one of the side brackets and move it apart to give yourself enough room, but this one looks like it might actually fit out with both brackets still bolted to the transom. I'll just show you in here. You can see this oil's emulsified as well. So another sign that all these seals need replacing. Possibly also the cause of the internal corrosion that's made these seas. There are a couple of ways we could go from this point. One is to disconnect this ground strap here, disconnect the wiring from the relay under the cowling and pull the whole thing out. But I actually think I'm going to undo these fasteners, take the electric motor off, which I know works, leave it under here for now. The disadvantage to that is that I'd like to be able to bench test it once it's fixed up, but I think if I can get it moving smoothly, redo the seals, pretty confident I can put it back in and test it on the boat. So I'm going to take the motor off and just pull the hydraulics out. Just taking the last of these 4 bolts out from the back. With the motor off, I'm just going to take this pin out now. This is the pin I use to punch the main pin through it, or the rod through. I've just been using that to hold it in place. As always, here's the little key that goes on the end of the motor. Make sure you don't lose that. Let's get this on the bench.
A few things happened at this stage that I didn't really get a chance to film, unfortunately. The unit itself is quite corroded, and the electric motor had a bit of damage and a bit of corrosion that I hadn't really noticed. It wasn't stopping it working yet, but I wasn't confident it was going to last that much longer. So I had a look. I went up to Evinrude and had a chat to the guy there and looked at some of the prices. Also had a bit of a chat about the risks with this job, and that's definitely something you need to take into account. Some jobs don't have a high chance of success. Things can break with corrosion, all that kind of stuff. So it actually turned out to be better to order a second-hand replacement unit for it, and that's why this video is actually titled Replacing a Unit, because we don't end up repairing it. I will down the track go through pulling one of these units apart so you can see what it's like if you do want to repair yours. But in this case, it made much more financial sense and was less of a risk just to swap it out for a second-hand unit. So that's where we pick up.
The new trim tilt units arrived now. Obviously you can see here it's come off an Evinrude 90, but they're the same throughout quite a lot of the range, from I think the 90 up to the 150. And you can also see it's in much better condition. I mean, this end cap here is totally gone, whereas these are actually in quite nice condition, new seals. So really what this means is the motor was a bit corroded, these end caps were gone, the seals were gone. So by replacing this unit, we've got something that's much less corroded in the case. Don't need new end caps, don't need new seals, don't need new motor, and don't have to run the risk that looking at this you can't even see where the joint is, whether these would even come out at all. So let's throw this new one in and then we should be good to go. The transom here was pretty bad. All the gel coat and that had gone on the pod here. So I've just put some epoxy bog in there, sanded it up, put a bit of epoxy paint on top of it as well, just to seal up and stop water soaking into the fiberglass behind here. Thought I may as well do that while the trim tilt was off. First thing to do with the new one now is just put some bushings top and bottom. The other ones were completely gone, so I bought some brand new ones for this. I've got the circlip on one end of the pin. Then I'm just going to spray this with a bit of white lithium grease. I've cleaned this pin up on a wire wheel, and I'm just going to smear a little bit of waterproof grease on it. And then get ready for that to go in. So I've just put this pin through flush with the inside here, and then I've got the main tilt rod retracted far enough that I can get it lined up at the bottom. I've currently got this trim tilt system with the bypass open, so I can just lift this rod up until it's aligned. Now it's almost in position. I'm just going to use a screwdriver to pry it up until it's lined. And there we go. That just needed to come a little bit further through then for this clip to lock into the groove. The oil in the reservoir here is full to overflowing, so I'm not going to top it up. What I am going to do is take off the stand, just let it drop a bit while the bypass is open, lift it up again, let it drop just a few times to bleed it through, then we'll lock off the bypass and see how it goes. It's probably fair to say that lifting this up is really a two-person job. It's a pretty heavy outboard. Success. This now goes through its full range of travel pretty nicely. Took a few ups and downs for it to bleed and to start doing that. Oh, that's me on the button, not the actual trim tilt. But now that's swapped out, I reckon this is good to go. So we'll get it ready to tow and then put it on the water. You don't really know what other issues are going to arise until it's back on the water. But I certainly think all the obvious problems that needed to be sorted out before it got run for the first time on the water are fixed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you if you are doing some work on these Evinrudes, because they are unique in the way things like the gearbox comes off and that sort of thing, so I hope it helps you there. Anyway, take care, please rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.